So thank you for Birthright for bringing me on to host this room again. Today's topic in hand is COVID and war. Do we feel safe in daily life in Armenia? And up here with me, we have Mary, Astrik, Araz, and Vartan. Vartan joined us again as well last time. So happy to have you up here again. So we're just going to start up this room with quick introductions of the people up here speaking with me. So we'll go with the natural order. Mary, introduce yourself.
Hi, everybody. First of all, I wanted to thank the Birthright Armenia staff for organizing this discussion and the variety of other activities that make the organization have the impact that it has on both the lives of the volunteers and in Armenia. My name is Mary Galliston. I'm from the United States of America, specifically Boston, Massachusetts. I came to volunteer in Birthright Armenia sometime around end of May, so it's a little bit over a month that I'm here. And as I said, it's great to be here with you all and excited for this discussion.
Happy to have you up here. Thank you, Mary, for that introduction. Astrid, tell us who you are.
Hi guys, so I'm Astrid Gagopchan. I'm French Armenian. I work as a journalist in France, and I was working there during the war, so I couldn't come here because I had a contract that I had to finish in Paris, but I was very, very frustrated to be so far away, so I decided to come here, and I came with Birthright 6 months ago now, almost. It's going to be 6 months in July. And I worked with HETK, which is an investigation newspaper in Yerevan, through Birthright for 3 months. And then I decided to stay a bit longer to work as a correspondent here. And I'm still here. So I've been in Armenia, kind of touring the country. I've been to Karabakh a few times, and I'm here for a few more weeks.
That's amazing. Thank you for everything you're doing, for reporting. That takes a lot of guts. Thank you. Araz, introduce.
Yeah. Hi guys. So I'm Araz. I'm Lebanese Armenian. I moved to Armenia 5 years ago with the Birthright Armenia program, and since then I stayed in Armenia. So basically, I'm technical product manager at Pixart. I also co-founded Alt for Armenia during the war. So I'm the co-founder and the CEO of Alt for Armenia, and I also co-founded Team Sourcer. It's also like a project that I just started that we help companies to establish their engineering team in Armenia. So I'll be happy to share more about my experience during the panel. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you, Araz. And Vartan, you need no introduction, but introduce yourself.
Okay, hello to everyone. I'm Vartan. I was born in Armenia. When I was 5 years old, my family moved to Moscow. Then, when I was 23, I made my first attempt to return to Armenia, 2.5 years, from 1998 to 2001, and finally moved to Armenia 11 years ago in 2010 with my family, with one kid. Now we have 3 children. I'm economist by professional background, have a PhD, worked in different sectors, moved to Armenia, completely changed my career, started working at the Ministry of Diaspora. Then in 2012, together with 11 like-minded people, we've established the Together Armenia Foundation, which is primarily focusing on supporting volunteer repatriates to find their way to in soft landing in Armenia. Basically, that's it. At the moment, I'm in Moscow, but planning to return in 2 days to Yerevan again. This is one of the rare destinations where people can travel from Armenia in times of COVID.
Amazing. I love the modesty also in the introduction. Vartan, it's always a pleasure to have you up here for the second time in a row. You are a role model to me in the way you role model to me in the way you live your life and the things you do. And linking this to Vartan as well, Vartan requested that we open up this discussion to the people in the room so we can have a more give and take, because I just want to keep in mind that Mary was a bit reluctant to go to Armenia and do the volunteering, but she overcame that because of the situation that were ongoing in Armenia, but she took that leap and joined Birthright to do the volunteering. Astrid just came to finish 2 months ago her volunteering through Birthright Armenia, and is currently living in Armenia and as a correspondent going to the front lines as we speak. Araz repatriated, and one of the first leaps she took was through Birthright. And I just want to open up this room already from the beginning to ask you to come up here and to discuss everything related to post-war Armenia or mid-war Armenia and COVID Armenia, and just openly talk about the fact of, are we feeling safe in daily life in Armenia? So what do you think? I'm just going to invite up to speak the people I know who usually do like to speak in these conversations, and I'm inviting everyone down here to come up. So I would kindly ask that you do.
Perhaps I can start while people are coming up. Um, I can say that on my end, when I was deciding to come to Armenia through the Birthright program, I really wasn't very much concerned because I was very focused on, my desire. I want to go to Armenia. I want to do this and this and this. However, my wonderful parents were very, very concerned. And to the extent that until the last minute and the last day before the flight, they were encouraging me to change my mind. And I have to say, rightfully so. Sending a child thousands of miles away. I mean, any loving, caring, and intelligent parent, and not to mention, if they're Armenian, they will be very vocal about their concerns. But in my case, I'm very fortunate, and I dearly appreciate my loved ones and those types of people who care, and I realize that they're around me, whether it's from home or from the Birthright Armenia office. So we had a conversation, about what was concerning, and multiple factors included not only the COVID situation and the administration with vaccines and the treatment process within the country, but it was also the post war situation. And, every day or frequently, I would say, they would hear news of, attacks along the border or some intrusion along the border, but also about the upcoming elections, the elections that already happened. So those were the multiple factors that, there could be a strong likelihood of tension that could eventually culminate into a potential violence. And that was essentially what was worrying them. However, we talked about it, and fortunately enough, I received their consent and words of advice as well, and I took heed with the precautionary measures. And interesting enough, during the orientation, when Mr. Sevan Kabakyan, um, he made very similar suggestions for all the volunteers that just came to Armenia about, face masks and being responsible not only for yourself but those around you. So having those people around me that cared and expressed their concern essentially helped me to overcome any obstacles or hesitance to come to our country and serve as much as we can in whatever field is possible. And essentially, I guess it wasn't as bad. When I came to Armenia, I remember walking down the street the first day. A bit of a funny story. I wore a mask that covered the mouth, and then I wore an additional mask, transparent, that covered the face. And I was walking down the street, and I saw people with fascination, and people were looking at me with fascination because I had a lot of masks on, and the majority of people did not have any masks at all. So that was a little bit funny to see, and it immediately broke down any lingering uh, concerns or worries about being in Armenia. But again, in the Birthright Armenia office, we still practice wearing masks for the safety of our colleagues and our friends. So that's a little bit about my experience. I'd be interested to hear the rest of the group.
And do you feel safe now walking down the street when you see so many people without masks?
Yes, I do feel safe, and frequently I don't wear a mask when I'm walking down the street. But when I'm entering a store, I always have my mask nearby or in my bag, just in case. If I see many people are putting it on, then I also, respect the environment and the policies as well. But overall, there's no concern at all, especially since a lot of volunteers came with the vaccine documentation. No worries whatsoever. So far, it's been a safe experience, and I hope it continues to be that way, not only for me, but for the rest of my colleagues and friends.
Amazing input. And Asli, you said you just came to finish your volunteering through Birthright. So how was that experience like? The first time you came to Armenia post-war and in the midst of COVID?
So when I arrived, I have to be honest, I was absolutely freaked out about COVID, because in France it was a big deal. We had the curfew, everything was closed, and so I came with the masks and everything. Vaccine was not a thing yet. So it was like February. So I have to say, kind of like Mary was saying at the beginning, I had everything, and people were just looking at me like, who the hell is that? What is she doing with all this? And then when I started reporting, so for HEC, when I was with Birthright, so I went to some, kind of remote villages and stuff, and really nobody would wear masks. But I decided, okay, they do whatever they want. I'm not gonna give them any lessons or anything, but I'm gonna keep it also just for them, because I come from the city and it's a village, and I really don't want to be the person bringing them COVID or something like that. But then with time, I have to be honest, also because many people got COVID or now got the vaccine, I'm starting to be like way more high astansi about this, and less freaked out, but also because it got better in the last 6 months, to be honest. But I was lucky. I mean, I was always careful, and I never got COVID, not in France, not here. And it actually kind of all worked out fine with all my colleagues, my friends, all the people I met here. But it's true that it was weird, and also with the post-war atmosphere. So I wasn't here during the war, but when I came, you could still kind of feel like it was hard to have a 5 minute conversation that was more than 5 minutes and where you didn't mention the war. So that was also something I kind of expected, but also, didn't really know how it was gonna be. But I never felt unsafe because of all of this. It was more like a matter of, okay, getting used to it, getting used to this reality. I come from a country where there's a curfew. Here everything is open, and there's a very different atmosphere because this country just went through a war. But it was more like, kind of adapting and getting to know how it works here. But I, to be honest, didn't feel unsafe because of all this.
And the irony in that statement would, for me, would be you're reporting on what's happening, and especially on the what's happening in the borders. So for you having direct access to the information that would just trickle down to the audience, it's interesting to hear your input, that you hear firsthand, you see firsthand what's going on, and you still don't feel unsafe doing with the current situation in Armenia. So what would you say to the people who are still uh, who still can't take the decision to come to Armenia, who still feel unsafe, who are scared to do so? What would you tell them?
Well, I think it's actually easier to be scared when you're far away, because I just feel like your imagination, even me, I had no idea what I was going to find. And last week I was in a village in Sunik, like Aravus. It's literally 500 meters from the Azerbaijani now border. Like, you can see the military posts from the other side. But when you're with locals there, who, of course, there's a general climate of they don't feel safe 100%. Of course, they don't know what is going to happen. But when you're here and you see what is going on and you see the people, everything is like more real. So you don't have all the fantasies that maybe you could have when you're far away in the diaspora. you know, and if you read about it every single day on social media, maybe you imagine it's worse than it actually is. So talking with people and reporting actually made me feel less and less unsafe, because I was kind of starting to actually grasp the situation. Then of course it doesn't mean it's all good, and unfortunately it's not all pink and perfect. But seeing people who are actually there telling you it's okay, this is what is happening, this is worrying, but you know, kind of being like super rational about it, it makes you realize that maybe you freaked out a little too much when you were far away, and when you're here you kind of understand what's going on better, so you also personally feel more safe maybe.
Wow. So for everyone listening to it, and I know a few people, we were talking out of Clubhouse that we want to go to Armenia, but we don't think it's the right moment. Everything is so obscure. But thank you for clarifying that, and for changing at least my point of view and for what's actually happening in Armenia, and my decision to come and visit in the next few weeks. Thank you, Asrik. Then Vartan, I'd like to ask your take, because I know you get a lot of inquiries from people who would want to repatriate, and you had to answer a lot of questions mid-war, or how does bureaucracy work during COVID? How has that affected Armenian bureaucracy? How does that affected Armenian repatriation? So let's hear your take until Aras comes back.
Okay, fine. I'll try to start with COVID and then maybe to a post-war situation and feeling among repatriates and potential repatriates. So interesting enough, I think COVID create like the tension on people is much bigger in big cities and towns. Like 5 million plus population cities, people feel much more vulnerable than in 1 million Yerevan, or especially if you live outside of Yerevan, I think you feel a little bit more comfortable, because in case of this crisis goes up, you understand that the capacity of the healthcare system in a smaller towns or in smaller countries is works better than in huge cities and countries. That's number one. So I definitely see this trend that people feel more safer in a smaller communities in smaller towns. The second is that actually in Armenia, many people went through COVID. I also went through COVID, right? And there is a certain type of a natural immunity towards COVID, and low numbers now. That's why even if you go in Yerevan, you even forget that there is COVID, because in cafes, in all other places, you see places are open, people do not wear masks, and still the numbers are not increasing. Hopefully, we won't have another wave soon. But as I mentioned, many of us have already passed through the COVID. As for the during the war and past war, during the war, I'm trying to imagine how I would react if I had been living in Moscow at the times of the war, and I'm afraid I would have been much more vulnerable to emotions than in Armenia, because in Armenia you are still in the war, but you are trying to see how you can be of help to people who are fighting, to people who have been forced to move, whatever. So in this situation, though it's very psychologically difficult, but you still find your place, you still find what you need to do, and you can unite with different people, organizations, which makes your life easier and psychological situation easier. That's my perspective. Interesting enough, after the war crisis, political crisis, and after the war situation, we see both trends. For one side, we see people who just want to get rid of their Armenian identity, of their connection with homeland. They don't want to be associated with Armenia, who lost the war, whatever. So you can see it both in Armenia and the diaspora. I'm trying to be very frank, but at the same time, we have an influx of people who have never who were not planning to move to Armenia, but now it's kind of number one thing in their list. They want to move to Armenia. They want to be engaged with Armenia. They understand that this defeat is also their own defeat, and they are ready to do things 10 times, 50 times more than they used to do in a more efficient way, and desperately looking for that efficient way for their personal engagement with Armenia, including physical move. So that's what I'm seeing today, and that's what I'm quite happy about, because in any case, in any country, uh, it's only 5 or 10%. The most passionate are writing the history and are changing the reality. The others are passive users, the others are deniers, the others are active supporters, whatever. But like the core group is usually 5 to 10% of people.
That's perfectly said, actually. Completely agree with that. And question, if you could compare, because you do see the change in people wanting to repatriate. Did you see a dip in the numbers mid-COVID? Did you see an increase in of the numbers post-war? What was that like?
Yeah, we did this poll among repatriates with Armenian Repatriates Network, which has more than 10,000 members, and it's a great place, ecosystem, where you can meet with thousands of repatriates from different countries with different professional backgrounds. You can chat, you can share the experience, you can ask questions, you can get answers on your questions. So we did a poll 6 months ago, and we will try to repeat it now, just to measure the mood, the trends. So 320 people took part in that poll, including 270 existing repatriates and expats and 50 potential repatriates and expats. And results were pretty optimistic. Basically, 89% out of all repatriates who took part in the poll, they said that they are planning to stay in Armenia despite of the war and political situation, out of which 28% mentioned that they are even more determined to stay in Armenia. I think, which is a great result in general. Only 8% mentioned that they are planning to leave Armenia, and approximately half of them said that it's not because of the political crisis or the war, but mostly because of the economic reasons. Uh, we did another big survey 7 years ago, and kind of it supports the results which we got now. And we asked the question, what would be the reasons for you to leave Armenia? And we've mentioned like a large scale war. We didn't want it to take place, to be frank, but we just mentioned it. And only 5% in 2014 or 15, when we did the survey, actually mentioned that due to this large scale war, they will be ready to leave Armenia, which proves the following fact: in comparison with locals, it's not just with locals. I think the moods to leave Armenia are much higher among the locals rather than repatriates at the moment. That's why repatriation is even more important for Armenia. And repatriation is important not only from the point of view that you can make the difference, but also very much from the point of view that you can influence on the moods of locals. Because if they see physical move of repatriates now to Armenia, now in difficult times, they will think twice about leaving the country. So professional repatriation today can definitely be very and is extremely important now, not only for repatriates but also for locals. That's what I can feel now.
I mean, I think also the obvious connection in that situation is that to actually repatriate today from the diaspora, that many may think that economically speaking we're doing much better, right? At least on personal levels. So to actually make that jump, it's such a big decision that once you go there, even something as big and major as war won't change your decision, because you did that for something greater than money. You did that something. You did that for your being, for your identity, and I think to turn back on that is hard. And I completely understand why a local would want to leave. And I love the approach of us moving back. I always say moving back to Armenia, although I've never lived there, but I always say moving back to Armenia. Moving back to Armenia would uh, push the locals to stay and push the economy together, and that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to give back to the homeland and see it prosper. And Aras, thank you for coming back. We miss you for a moment there. If you remember the questions I asked, can you start from top?
Yeah. So yeah, we were talking about the how we were feeling safe like during the war and after the war, right?
Yes.
So yeah, so so during the war, like being in Yerevan, like we felt safe, even though we were like me personally, I was mentally like all the time not here. I was in Artsakh. But so anyway, I was so we started, just like to give a small background about Old for Armenia. We started Old for Armenia during the first day of the war, the first night of the war. We decided to fundraise like amount from our friends and family, so we can go by the weekend to Syunik. So basically, also before the war, like 5 days before the war, we were in Artsakh. So we had a lot of friends and relatives and in Artsakh and Syunik that we first contacted them when the war started. So so yeah, we were going. So basically, we were going to Syunik every weekend, and also like to the bordering villages to send help to the families and to the soldiers. And of course, um, we were stressed, and it was not very safe to go there, and we had some like um, some dangerous things happened on the way, that our lives was under danger. And I can say that we didn't have any like tool to protect ourselves, because obviously we were sending humanitarian aid. uh, but um, but yeah, we were in the mindset of like, we need to be with our people, we need to be by their side, we need to support them, and not only by the food and hygiene and clothes, but also like being by like being optimistic and tell that we will rebuild everything and we will win, and all these things. So but then when we came back to Yerevan, life was kind of still going on. You could still see the restaurants and cafes full. So but because we were going back and forth to Syunik, we were more on the like the realistic side, what was happening. But after the war, maybe like relatively we were more like safer, but for us to go back again and continue helping these people, even if like we had lost, just to face these the same people. But I think it was very important to continue showing that we're by their side and they're not alone. And despite all the challenges, our team grew, and we started doing long-term sustainable projects. So we opened two IT centers in Syunik, in Goris and Ter villages. And also we started Made in Syunik project, which is like we are making tote bags. The tote bags are made by Hadrutsi women, 6 women, so that have lost everything basically. So by doing small projects, we are kind of giving hope and strengthening our new borders. um, but yeah, I think we me personally, um, I feel safe in Armenia, and I don't even like, all this time I didn't think about leaving Armenia. It's even the opposite. I felt like Armenia needs me now most. So I'll do my best, and I'll contribute to the things that I can have impact on, because because of the situation and on the uncertainty of the politics and the situation of the country, we decided just to focus on the things we can have impact on. And there is actually a lot to do. And I want to also um, tell my audience that if you want to help and you're hesitant how, and you don't know how, just like reach out to anyone you trust in Armenia, or just reach out to us, and I'm sure we can find so many things to work on. And you can help, like even if you're far, even if you're not in Armenia, if you have the will to help, or like if to will to invest in Armenia, or to help or like share anything that you have, like either a skill or yeah, like mentorship or anything. Armenia needs it. So yeah, thank you. Sorry, I talked a lot.
I love the last part. She used it to plead the people to come to Armenia. Okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to thank you, Aras. I'm going to invite anyone who wants to come up here and ask a question to do so. Raise your hand and I'll bring you up here. In the meantime, until that's done, and actually someone decides to come up here, I'm going to play a small game. I know this is the game show, but I'm going to give each and every one of you a chance to speak openly and talk to someone. Let's say I'm this someone, mid 20s, graduate, has degrees, has experience, and is 50-50 about moving to Armenia or at least repatriating or going there for 3 to 6 months initially to test the waters, as they say. So I'm going to give one, each and every one of you a chance to convince me. And given the diversity of the people up here, and this would be also a good thing to keep in the list in the podcast, because people could listen to it and hear your pleas. So let's do that if you agree, and I'll give Mary the first chance, and Ipsima is up here as well. She can ask questions, yeah. Let's first do that. Let's give a minute to each, and then Ipsima can ask your question. So Mary, first.
Yes, I mean, that's a very tough question or tough prompt for me specifically because my thoughts about it is that if there is any need to persuade or convince, it's I might as well not do any persuading or convincing because it's all up to the individual. I mean, as far as I've heard, all of the co-panelists here, I mean, they did have some reservations about coming, but their desire to come here and help was overwhelmingly much more important for them. And in that case, I noticed the common trend that I think none of them needed persuading or convincing. Um, so I guess it's not the best answer, but I wanted to be honest in my opinion that I would have a hard time persuading or convincing just because it's all up to the individual and it has to be from within that desire to come and help. Otherwise, it will just be a constant period of hesitancy and thinking about, oh, how is it going to be? For me, it was no matter what the challenges are. I mean, there's always a way if we try to look at the right things in the right way and listen to trustworthy people. I mean, uh, what we said previously and shared our experiences regarding what happened with COVID and when we came, how our perspectives changed and how our outlook changed. I guess that is a very strong foundation of persuasion if we can take that. But my overall answer is, it has to come from within. You have to want to come here, to come here. Yes.
You actually did better than answer actually convince me, because you persuaded me in not answering the question, and yeah, because everything you said before and your examples would lead me to say yes and come to Armenia. In a way, you reversed engineered it, but it worked. Thank you for that. Asrik, what about you?
Well, I think I'm gonna be like a bit more blunt, but if you're in the diaspora and you're considering coming here, it means chances are you probably feel completely useless, and you want to do something about it. I know I did. So the first thing you can do is come here, and it doesn't have to be okay. I'm gonna come and live here, but that's the first thing you can do. Just be here. Whatever you do back home, try to bring it here. If you're just a student, that's okay. You can just come and volunteer, just do something else. If you have a job that you could do here, come and do it here. But just, I think it's the first step to come and see how it's like and try to bring whatever skills you have, whatever you do back home, well, do it in Armenia, because it's a small country, so whatever you do is going to have more impact, and especially now, because we need people in like literally all of the fields. So I think that's what should convince you to come. Just try it, and if you don't like it, it's okay, because you can go back, right? So just try it. You know you're going to be useful, you know you're going to have more impact, and also you're like on a personal level going to feel less useless than you might do if you just stay wherever you are.
This is a great answer, but what if someone's pursuing an economic gain and is hesitant? Will Armenia be that gain I'm looking for? Will Armenia not be that gain I'm looking for? Is there an upside for me to move my business in Armenia? What would you answer to that?
Well, to that, I would just say you don't have to come forever, you know? If there's the economic side, you just come for a shorter term. You just kind of prepare it and you come and do what you can for that short period of time before maybe you try to figure out something else. Actually, I had economic considerations when I came here, which is why I only came for 3 months. But then during those 3 months, I already felt like, okay, I need to stay more. So I'm going to need to find an economic solution to this. And I'm not saying it always happens, but I did end up finding some work and being able to stay more. But what I mean is, when I came, it was for a short period, and I kind of had to be here also to see all the opportunities and possibilities that I found. And I'm pretty sure I couldn't have found all those if I just stayed and looked from France before actually being here, even initially for a short period of time.
And the climate isn't as tense as we in the diaspora think it is, right? So basically, there's no political or tense climate that would, let's say, affect our decision once we get there. So once we go get to Zvartnots airport and take the cab to go to Yerevan or where you're going, hopefully a remote area, maybe, it's not going to change. Nothing's going to flip, and there's not going to be a war. There's not going to be a big problem that's going to set us back.
Well, I would say not at the moment. It's hard to answer that like forever, and it wasn't the same. Like elections scared a lot of people. Eventually went okay, but I mean, at the moment, I don't see anything that should scare you that much that you wouldn't even try coming here.
I mean, if it did scare you, you would have left maybe as well, because you finished your volunteering.
Exactly, and that's why I'm just like, try it, because worst case scenario, you can leave if you get really scared, or if you don't find anything, or if you don't feel well, you know, you can go back. But not trying means just not trying, and I think that's a shame.
I think it's a shame too. Beautifully said. Aras, we met in Lebanon when you were flying
Right.
back. So how would you persuade me to been on the flight with you back to Armenia?
Well, we have two audience. We have you and we have the rest of the people, but like it's very easy to convince you, to be honest. When I left Armenia to go to Lebanon for like a short period of time, I was actually tired of the situation, knowing that there is like, I don't want to talk politics, but knowing that there are Azeri soldiers in on our land. So I left Armenia, and when I was in Lebanon, just like seeing all the problems and the danger and the violence, and sadly to see the situation, like the lifestyle of the people living there, I was like, I just want to go back safe to Armenia. I just want to arrive to Armenia. And it's true that when I arrived, like I just felt the stress release, because everything was very stressful for me. But so it's easy, I think, to convince you, especially there is no more fuel, like that's what you said today. So but no, like speaking about like broader, I would advise, if someone wants to come to Armenia and have the experience of living here, and they still don't know what they want to do in their lives, or like they're still like hesitant if they can bring their business here, just apply for the Birthright Armenia program. And if you're over 32 years old, you can still do the same program with Armenian Volunteer Corps. So basically, this program changed my life, because um, when I applied for it like 5 years ago, I still didn't know what I wanted to do in my life. And when I arrived to Armenia, and like of course I loved everything about it. And also I saw a lot of potential and potential in my career growth here. So this is why I also stayed. It's not only because I love the country and I had to choose between Armenia or my or anything else. It's kind of like both, you know. So so I would advise anyone to do this program, and I'm sure they can find the right internship program based on their background. So in this time, they will kind of meet new people. Like they will also do networking. They will also be living with local host families. So they will also have the whole experience of living in Armenia and not only as a tourist. And after that, they will also have the choice to stay here or not. And even if they decide to stay there and they still need some support, Birthright Armenia also helps them to have a smooth transition to move to Armenia. Like they have a grant. They also like provide housing for 3 months until you find a job. And so it was very helpful for me. And I'm sharing it with everyone because it's really a great opportunity. And even again, like even if you don't want to come to Armenia now, you can still volunteer remotely. There is like so many organizations, even especially with post-COVID situation, you can still like volunteer and have an amazing impact on Armenia by being in the States or wherever you are.
First of all, amazing. Second of all, thank you for hitting me where it hurts and calling me out about the bad situation in Lebanon. You convinced me. And thank you for sharing the insight of what someone can do when they do decide to come to Armenia, and through those multiple organizations. And one other organization that helps a lot of people do that lunch, hopefully for good, is Repat Armenia. And Vartan, how would you convince someone who's 50-50 about doing that big lunge and moving to Armenia?
I wouldn't convince at all. No, it's a joke. I wish I were 20 years old now, because when I was 20, we didn't have Birthright, AVC, Repet Armenia, Teach for Armenia, Volmar, and many other opportunities which you can use and come to Armenia just to feel what it is for you. But in general, and I would also encourage people to ask questions. I see Ripsume here, but also if others have questions, feel free to to ask. So I would say that if you want to get Armenian COVID, you need that, and which will not kill you, but which will make you stronger in terms of professional, as an Armenian, as a person. If you want to explore yourself, if you want to identify many hidden elements of your identity, of your connection with homeland, what does it mean to you? If you want your brain to be exploded from all those thoughts, and if you want the soil, the saint soil, to help you to create new energy, to create new ideas, projects, and unite people around you around those projects, you definitely need to try yourself in Armenia. This doesn't mean that you need to move to Armenia for all of your life. You can try. You can come here for several months, then leave. You can stay longer, shorter. That's your decision. But if you want to be virused for for the whole of your life and to get a vaccination against assimilation, if you want to create a strong connection with homeland, with land, physical land, you definitely need to try to come to Armenia as soon as possible. And we are here to help you. Both several organizations that I've mentioned, REPAT, Birthright, AVC, we are happy to connect you with different other types of organizations as well if you're not looking for internship or volunteering opportunities, but professional repatriation opportunities or doing voluntary military courses. As I mentioned, that's the one thing. The second thing is that, nowadays when there's a big mistrust between diaspora and Armenia, in the Armenia, people who move to Armenia and become repatriates, they are really playing a very unique role of a connector of Armenia with the bigger world. You see, like people like Aras has created new projects to help people on the ground to do different type of development, to implement different type of development ideas, right, or humanitarian ideas. And repatriates are extremely busy and extremely creative in terms of doing things, in terms of uniting people, in terms of becoming a natural connector between Armenia and the diaspora, because they understand both They understand the diaspora, which they're coming from, but also they are very much more deeply understand Armenia from the point of locals, from the point of living here. I would stop here.
I was smiling uh, cheek to cheek, actually listening to it, and I was saying this is $1 million copyright that you have to use as an ad. It was amazing, and I loved the COVID and vaccine reference. That's that
Big
was amazing.
COVID Armenian.
That was a home run. If I can see it on billboards, do you want the COVID that will? Yeah, mamma mia, that was amazing. Vartan, you sold me, and you should use that as a video and upload it on social media, and I will share it.
071464660. Ask Mariana Odzovak.
Amazing. I loved it, Vartan. Thank you so much. Rifsime Jan, Chigaris, you're up here. So sorry for taking so much of your time, but how are you?
Yeah, you should be. All of you should apologize for taking my time.
But
I'm
Vartan
kidding. I'm
can't
kidding.
because he convinced
No,
you.
no, I know. Actually, Vartan, I've heard so many amazing things because my friend Tatavik used to work with you. In she, I think she still does some stuff, but she worked with Repat, and I literally Vartan, when I was in Yerevan a couple of years ago, I heard she sung your praises. And I've known Tatavik for a really, really long time. And yeah, she worked with Vartan and was like, he's like the best person ever in the world. And when she moved away from Armenia, she actually lives in London now. Like leaving Vartan was like one of the most like painful. I remember we were speaking about it. You're a legend in my books. I've heard wonderful things. But yeah, I mean, I think most of the stuff was covered. And actually, I wanted to ask you, Garo, what are the things that are stopping you or causing you some hesitation about going? Because I think actually Mary pointed it out. You know, if you really want, if you really want, you just do it. But I guess there are, of course, natural concerns, and I'm just curious what yours are, because I think most of what I was going to say has already been covered. Yeah.
You want me to open up the personal books? So I'm going to shed light on some facts that some people oversee when we have to take these kinds of decisions, and the biggest for me is family. So individuals. So I always sum up: there are two kinds of people. They're individuals who can take decisions and think about themselves, pursue their own life, and then there are people who are more family oriented, who think in packs. So I'm moving to Armenia, the family's moving to Armenia, and the big problem in that situation is when one of the blocks, I mean, one family member decides to say no and breaks the dynamic, then it's a no for the entire family. And I think we overlook a lot of these cases, and I'm basically one of those people who has to always be with the pack, even though I was living alone in Europe for 7 years, so that's kind of ironic. But I moved back to Lebanon with that one pursuit of being with the family, especially with these hard times. And since Lebanon and Armenia aren't going through the best of times these past 12 to 24 months, and that's one of the reasons. And as much as it's hard for me to make that decision, I have to be where the family is, and currently they're in Lebanon. And I've tried to convince them for years and years since I was 14 years old to move to Armenia, and that just hasn't clicked yet. I'm hoping that it would soon. I'm definitely going to pursue a journey in Armenia, being a multiple months stay, several months stay, and hopefully expand what I'm doing in my personal life, and having a part of it be in Armenia and contribute to the economy. And actively, I do try to contribute to the economy by contributing to the diaspora. And why not have that bridge? But as I stand, it's kind of a tricky moment in my personal life. So that's my.
See, I assumed just intuitively that there was something else holding you back, because there's so many reasons. There are so many reasons to go, and coming from a sort of personal perspective, you know, I remember a couple of years ago there were those protests going through Yerevan, and actually during that time I was really ill. I was actually having surgery, and I was only in Yerevan for a week, and I had to extend my stay. And yeah, it was really intense. I was alone. I was having surgery, and I was in a hotel where there were these like crazy protests going on. Um, and actually, even after that, I had to extend my stay, but it was then that I started to get deeper into painting. So I started to paint more seriously when I was in Yerevan, and then yeah, about a year or two later, I went to Artsakh to shoot a documentary with my friend who's from London, who he wanted to stay out there for longer because he didn't feel like it was enough time. And I'm thinking potentially about going and like recording music out in Yerevan and bringing out my band as well, from London, who are so down to do it. And I have consistently felt so inspired being there. And literally the only thing that stops me from not being there right now is my like immediate responsibilities are work in London, and like to do with music and performing. I have other people that rely on me, and I have to be here physically. But outside of that, I mean, I would be there, in a flash, in an instant. And I think, Ari, your point about economics and things like that, I mean, our world is, I mean, everything is changing so rapidly, and people are working online. And especially with like, I mean, even just working in the crypto sphere with Narine, and just, I mean, working with all these different artists. I mean, the scope for being there physically is it's not so necessary, I think. So people are working and doing so much of their work online. So I think that's a really big point. And I know a lot of people that do work in the financial sphere that have gone and moved to Yerevan, and so that hasn't stopped them or their ability to earn. In fact, it's just able to increase it because their costs for living there are cheaper, and they're able to actually contribute to their immediate environment directly, whether it's buying food, whether it's renting from someone, their Airbnb, or but buying a temporary place, or renting, or whatever it is. So I think that there are so many positive things, and for me, I've been in Yerevan, and I've been in my family live in Artsakh, so I have quite a varied view, and I consist every time I go, I'm always like, it's not enough time, or there's more to do, and I'm always inspired, and there's so many opportunities. And actually, I totally see your point about the family, and I'm really happy that you brought that up, because people I've spoken with have had the same kind of thing. But I think you said it at the start, where you are in your mid-20s, and the responsibility for you do have less it's not like, if there's any time to travel, you know one would say it would be now, because the responsibility to family will always be there throughout your entire life. So that would be my 2 cents. That's it.
I always love listening to you speak and the wisdom you bring to the conversation. And I want to confess also that for me, the bravest people I've ever met were always the people who decide to make that plunge actually, to volunteer in Armenia, to repatriate Armenia, or just pack themselves up and move there, because they basically left everything, their comfort of their homes, the comfort of their families, whatever they had going for them, and just decide to give back to our homeland. And they were the bravest people I knew pre-COVID, pre-war. And to just think about the fact that there are individuals today in the middle of the COVID pandemic, in the middle of post-war Armenia, currently post-election Armenia, and whatever's happening now, are still taking the decision just now to go and volunteer. So for me, I can't even begin to comprehend how strong of individuals they have to be. And it's just that we need brave individuals, and we have so many, to make that decision and go. Of course, you just brought up to my mind the question of how can we target multi-generations, and how can we service the needs of multi-generations, because we can't just rely on attracting those individuals who are in the pursuit of self-discovery of who they are, what they want to do with their lives, who they want to become, and how that can happen in harmony with giving back to the homeland. So interesting questions that just came to my mind, and I hope we can tackle in some of the upcoming rooms we're going to be hosting, thanks to Nelly, who's in the audience, and Birthright, and Armenia Volunteer Corps, and Repat Armenia, and all the amazing organizations that are contributing to this transition that we have to make at some point by moving to Armenia, by giving back to Armenia, and doing so much that we have to, if we want to see this a piece of land thrive and prosper. So thank you, Ripsime. You always bring up the philosopher in me. Actually, I know it. And you because I want to ask Valentina what her question is to this amazing panel we have up here.
Hi guys, this is Valentina. I really love that you guys are doing this. When Vartan was mentioning that like one of the main things that people leave or consider is like the economy, basically figuring out like how you could work and live there. For instance, for me, like I'm almost in my mid-30s, so I don't think I would be going to, explore myself or volunteer. I would most likely go to Armenia, but also be able to work professionally. So I wanted to ask Vaktan, since he does the Repat Armenia, how likely is it that you could situate yourself and, figure out your work and your career before you make the huge, move? How often does that happen? Or is it more along the lines of like, you have to be there for a few months and kind of figure things out and physically be there in order to work professionally over there? Because this is something I've thought about for many years. And then going back to what Caro said, the only thing that's really held me back is my entire family is here in Los Angeles. So, and nobody is really, willing to make that move. But yeah, so my question is kind of directed to Vartan in regards to working there professionally.
Right, good question. Let me start with the fact that I think someone has already raised this question. Agaro has raised this question. It's not always that all members are ready for the move or even want to move to Armenia. It's common for many people, irrelevant of whether they're married or not. If they, well, it can be a parent, it can be a wife, it can be because of the children, whatever. So what I would suggest to do is as follows. Contact us first. We will try to navigate you and provide you some tips and insights related to the local market based on your professional background. If you need to change your profession, we'll advise you where to move to. We strongly encourage people to come with a pilot trip. We organize meetings with experienced repats in the field, in place, with potential employers in place, which will substantially help you to understand better your employability in Armenia and potential. Now, when things can be done remotely, we also strongly encourage people uh, to keep the jobs and do them remotely if possible. So it's a great opportunity for them to move to Armenia, keeping their job, doing remotely it, getting a decent salary. Even they can go with a decreased salary from Europe to USA or other countries. They can live a very good life in Armenia. So that's another thing which I would suggest. And please join Repat Armenia Network, Armenian Repatriation Network group, which will give you an opportunity to talk not only to me as a Repat Armenia director or with our integration managers, but like hundreds of people who moved to Armenia, thousands of people who moved to Armenia, and solve the questions which we have related to different aspects of soft landing, including employment. So that would be my recommendation. First, contact us for an individual consultation. Second, be prepared for the pilot trip. Third is consider keeping a remote job, physically moving to Armenia. The fourth is actually being engaged with Armenian Repatriation Network.
So I just contact you guys like via email or WhatsApp or
Yeah, it's
basically
Repat
the
Armenia.
website.
You can contact us via Facebook or email contact@repatarmenia.org or integration@repatarmenia.org.
But
And
like somebody
our
will
integration,
physically like reply and I can have like a real conversation, not just like an email back and forth, right? Like
yeah, sure,
I
sure.
guess
So
that's
we can
yeah.
plan a Skype or WhatsApp conversation. We have 2 integration managers. Both of them are
Mm.
repatriates. One from Belarus, another from Syria. We have community manager. She's now on maternity leave from Canada. So basically, we speak 8 languages. We understand pretty well the questions related to repatriation because almost all of us are repatriates from different countries from different cultural with different cultural and professional background.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you guys so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Vartan Can, if you counted Western and Eastern Armenian as 2 different languages, I have to say you speak 7 languages at Repat Armenia. And if you didn't, you speak 9.
Yeah, true. 2 dialects, 2 major dialects of Armenian.
No, I was
Iran,
kidding. I was
then
just
also
going to
West.
emphasize on the fact that it's always one Armenian. I was kidding because always this is the conversation on Clubhouse, just to link it to a bit of the
It's
small
good point. It's a good point. Yeah. So we
thing.
speak both Western and Eastern Armenian. That's
No, it's yeah, no, it's yeah, it's an interesting thing. Thank you so much for Vartan and for that, and of course, people who are going to listen to the podcast and the YouTube upload that's going to happen soon. Thanks to Nelly again. They can listen in and get that amazing instruction and follow it, hopefully. And on that note, anyone from the audience wants to come up and ask a question? Otherwise, we have passed the 1 hour mark, and I've been asked to keep this short and sweet. So if no one's going to come up here, I want to thank the panelists today. And again, Vartan, for having you and your insight. Mary, thank you so much. As a Birthright volunteer currently, Asrik, thank you for everything you do, going and reporting for us. Aras, thank you for your initiatives and for shedding light on the Birthright Initiative. And Ripsme, thank you for coming up here. And to everyone who listened in, thank you for joining, tuning in, and we hope to see you again during our next room.
Karajan, thank you for the moderation.
Yes, thank you,
Thank you for being
Garo,
here,
for the
and
Thank
questions
you.
and the discussion.
have a good evening. Have a good day, everyone.
One more
Thank you, Garo.
to add, guys, before we end the conversation is that we are planning to continue the series, the Birthright Armenia, ABC, and Repat Armenia, the co-organizations we want to do on a regular basis, twice a month, with different topics. So please feel free to invite your friends, share this information so that as many people can join us, ask questions, be a little bit more active, and follow up with all of us because we're here to provide you with insights, with useful information, with connections, with anything which we can help you either to come and experience Armenia or physically move to Armenia.
Amazingly said. Yes, of course. And yeah, then see you on the next our Clubhouse room. That's going to be in 2 weeks. Same date, same time. Thank you, Vartan, for that. And goodbye, everyone.
Be healthy,
Bye.
everybody.